Hey folks, how you doing? And indeed a happy new year. So I'm back with the Grey Spectrum Plus 2, finally. Yeah, it's been hanging around for quite a while now. So I got it a few months ago and I put a little video out on it, looking at what it needed. And I said I'd go away and order some parts and then I'd do the necessary repairs to it. And that was months ago, and I keep looking at it on the shelf thinking, oh, I need to get round to doing that, and I need to now stop procrastinating and just crack on with it, I suppose. So it's pretty good, actually. It's in pretty good condition. The only issues that we had was, firstly, there's no sound on the RF. I could really do with a spectrum analyzer to fix that properly. I don't have one. So that might be something for another video further down the road if I ever do get a spectrum analyzer. But I'm not going to worry about it because I don't tend to use the RF anyway. It was advertised as the drive wasn't running properly, but it seems fine. But I have bought a couple of new belts for it, so we'll change them as a matter of course. Anyway, they will be due if they've not been done already. The power socket, that was faulty, so you had to hold it at a certain angle just to get the thing to power up. I hope there's a power socket in there. I haven't actually opened the package, but I'll assume it's in there, so we'll do that. And I've also managed to fish out all the electrolytic capacitors that I'll need to do a full recap on it. And I'll play that one by ear, because I believe the boards on these computers are a little bit fragile and they're a little bit sensitive to heat. So we'll try it with the soldering iron, and if it starts to cause some damage, maybe I'll leave that, I don't know. But they're there, and I'll have a go. On top of all that, I want to give the thing a thorough strip down and clean as well, because it's full of fluff, and it's full of fluff that doesn't belong to me, so I want that gone as well. So yeah, let's crack on, let's strip it down and let's get to work. Yeah, so I think what I'll do first is I'll strip the case down, strip the keyboard down, clean it, so I'll wash everything, then I'll worry about the electronics, and by the time I've finished with the electronics the case will be dry. And I'll have a nice clean case to put the board back into. So that's the theory. Let's just pull some screws out. So I need to be a little careful lifting the lid off, because first of all the drive mechanism is hooked around this heatsink, so I just need to slide the case across slightly. And then, I must have left the connectors disconnected from the last time I opened it up. Which makes sense, I suppose. Okay, but normally, yes, you would have to make sure you disconnect the tape drive and the ribbon cable as well. Okay, that's the top half. Let's get the heat sink out, and that's got the voltage regulator on it as well. It should all lift out, and it does. Lovely, so that gives us the bottom case that can go in the wash. Let's get the keyboard out and then we'll worry about the tape deck after that. So it should be just these screws. They're different sizes. I don't know whether they're holding the keyboard in or not, so I'll leave them for now. Of course, there's one I can't quite get to. Hang on. If I had a thinner screwdriver, that wouldn't have been an issue, but I don't. Well, not handy. So that's those. And yes, I do need to take these smaller screws out as well. Let's make a note of where they go, a mental note anyway. Actually, no, that's come away. That's come away. So there's that. So for the drive, I've already taken the screws out for the board, and I'm seeing 2 screws here, 2 screws here, 1 for the motor, and there's a little catch here for the spring on the cassette door. So let's start with these. Okay, they're all the same. Now, if I press the eject button, no, that one, I should now be able to lift this mechanism out. Yeah, out it comes. But the LED power light is still caught, so I'll just have to remove that as well. Let's just get a screwdriver on that. There we go. And this whole unit should lift out, and it does. Excellent. And I'll have a go at getting this trapdoor off as well. So let's just take the tension off the spring. Like that. Just push the hinge back slightly. That's one side. Gentle. Here's the other. Okay, that can all go for a bath. Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do with these Amstrad keyboards is use any sort of key puller. That goes for all the Amstrad made Spectrums and the CPCs. In fact, any Amstrad computer I've ever worked on, you'll just end up breaking something. What you really want to do is you want to open the keyboard from the back and release the tabs for the keys from the other side. It just minimalises the amount of damage you can potentially do. Although, we are talking 30-year-old plastic, so there's no guarantees with anything really, I suppose. But limit the risk if you can. So I'm looking at this, I can see 4 little screws here. So I'll just remove those first. So they're out. Now we should just be able to release the backing plate by pushing in these plastic tabs. Again, it's 30-year-old plastic, so don't go nuts on it. Just enough so they pop out like that. And try not to force anything. There we go. Yeah. So we can remove the membrane carefully. And yikes. Yeah, that's not good. Hang on, let's have a closer look at that. So yeah, it's full of fluff. And that's to be expected. I mean, it does work its way in there. But with that fluff, every time you press a key, you're crushing that dirt into the membrane, and you could potentially do some damage, so it's always worth cleaning these keyboards out. And if you don't want to go the whole hog and strip it right down, at least get this far and clean the fluff out of the back of it, if nothing else. But that's just... I mean, yeah. It's just fluff that belongs to somebody else. Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. So you'll find on some of the keys, like the space bar and a couple of others, they've got these stabiliser bars. You'll need to remove those before you can remove the key, and they're fairly straightforward. They just sort of click out. Yeah, a flat blade screwdriver in. And just gently give it a nudge. They'll pop out. What they normally do. There it goes. Nice and gentle, and then you can remove the key. And the keys are fairly easy to remove from the back. So each of them have got a couple of tabs. You just want to push those in slightly, and the key should fall out. So I'll just show you with the space bar. One there, one there, and the key will drop out. It'll fall out, and then you will have a... Well, there'll be two springs inside the key, one that actually pushes onto the membrane, and one that actually provides the return for the key. So you just want to make sure you don't lose those when you release the key. And usually, the one for the spacebar is different to the rest as well, so it's probably worth putting that separately. It may or may not be in this case, I don't know, I haven't checked yet, but just bear it in mind that they can be different. So, I'll go round, I'll buzz out the rest of these keys, and then we can start the cleanup. And we're done, we're stripped down. So, yeah, it's not great. It's a little grubby, but that's to be expected, that's fine. This can now go in the wash. I've got the keys in a separate tub. And if you eat as many takeaways as I do, I don't have the best diet, it's always worth keeping all of these plastic containers. They come in so handy for just keeping bits together, you know, like keys or whatever, really. Anyway, yes. This can be cleaned. The keys can be cleaned. The membrane, I'm just going to give it a wipe down with a bit of isopropyl alcohol. That should be all that needs. A couple of things to note. The springs are all the same, apart from the spacebar spring, which is a little heavier. And weirdly, the enter key has a smaller spring. So there's two that are different to the rest. So it's worth just keeping those separate. On the membrane itself, there's these little spacers here, and I think... God, that's dropping bits everywhere. Yeah, I think they go in here. So make sure you don't lose them if you take this apart. Yeah. Okay. I've got some washing up to do then, I suppose. Right, so in order to clean the keycaps, I've got an ultrasonic jewellery cleaner. The long-winded way is to, of course, use a toothbrush and scrub each key individually. Preferably not your own toothbrush, but, you know, whatever. I find this just does just as good a job and a damn sight quicker. I've filled it with some warm water, and I've actually used some car shampoo, some car wash and wax. And the reason I've done that is if you look inside the key, there's a little spring there, and that's what actually makes contact with the membrane. It could potentially corrode if I just use ordinary detergent, because there's a lot of salt in that. Although, it probably wouldn't be an issue because it's not going to be wet for long, but nonetheless, that's why I've gone for the car shampoo. Plus, I've not washed the car since, like, August, actually, but I really should do that. Anyway, I have plenty of it lying around, so... yeah, I'll just throw the keys in here. I probably won't get them all in one go, so it'll probably take a couple of runs, but let's see what we can get in. Let's give that a run. Give that 10 minutes or so, and then we can rinse them. So all the case and keyboard bits are off drying, so where does that leave me? Well, I suppose it leaves me with the main board. So I've gone over it with a bit of compressed air and just blown all the big dust bunnies off it. I'm going to change this power socket because I know that's faulty. I'm going to recap it. Well, I'm going to have an attempt at recapping it. Like I said earlier, these boards, they're incredibly fragile, and if I start finding pads are starting to lift, I'm just going to leave it alone. It's not worth the risk of damage, but we'll see how we get on. And I also want to clean up this edge connector as well, because, let me see if I can zoom in on that. Probably not. Let me just bring the board to you. It's disgusting. And the interesting thing about these is for the casual bedroom gamer, because they have the joystick ports built in, the edge connector is generally left alone. It's not used, so there's no real score marks on there or anything, but I do intend to use it. I've got a Div MMC, and I would like to plug that in, so I'm going to need to clean the edge connector as well, so this would be the perfect time to do that. Okay, let's fire up the soldering iron and let's get this socket swapped out. all done. Yeah, so the new one's in. The old one, what had happened is the connector at the base had snapped. So it's probably had a sharp jolt upwards at some point. Somebody's probably tripped over the cable or whatever. That's what was causing the connection issue. But hopefully with the new one, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. So, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and while I've got the desoldering station out, I'll have a go at the capacitors and we'll just see how it goes. Like I said, the board can be fragile. So I'll play it by ear, but I'll do what I can. Well, that's all the recapping done. So it went pretty smoothly, actually. I thought I'd save you the montage this time and just crack on with it. Yeah, I didn't have any problems with the board. Nothing, none of the pads tried to lift. No, it all went pretty smoothly. So yeah, next job, let's clean up the edge connector, and then this can actually go back in the case, which is now dry. So I'm actually going to use a pencil eraser just to get the thick of the muck off. This won't do any harm to the connections. They don't look scored at all, so I don't think they've been used. No. The edge connectors tend not to get used by your average sort of bedroom gamer on the Plus 2 models. They're only really used on the earlier models just because they had no joystick ports. Of course, you always have the fancy pants people who want to plug in printers and other peripherals and things, but most Spectrum users, I think they only use the edge connector for a joystick, and it just wasn't needed on the Plus 2, so yeah, the edge connectors are usually pretty pristine. Sufficiently made a mess on that side. Let's turn it over. Okay, what I'll also do, I'll just give it a blast with some contact cleaner, and we'll use a rag as well. Just give it a little bit of a polish. Okay, that'll do. Right, I suppose, look at the tape deck. So it's going to need the belts changing, that's fine, I've got those. I've already gone through off camera and I've just changed out all the electrolytic capacitors, so they're all done. It's pretty clean. I've blown it with a bit of compressed air, so all the fluff's out of it. I just want to clean the heads while they're really accessible, and then we'll go ahead and we'll change the belt. But let me just grab some isopropyl alcohol. So, a bit of isopropyl alcohol, and a rag. And it's actually pretty clean, so I'm not too concerned. Right, so belts. There's two of them, so I presume I'll have to take the big one off first. Yeah, there's not a great deal of stretch left in that, so that's probably been slipping. And then we've got the second one here. Okay. On with the new one. If it'll go. Actually feels a bit smaller, this one, but it may just be that it hasn't shrunk. Let me just check that that's in the groove. Seems to be. And the outer belt. There we go. Okay, that can go back into the top half of the case now. What do you say we put a keyboard back together? Yeah, everything's dry now, so that's all been cleaned and is sparkly. All the filth from before's gone. Let's put it back together. So let's start with the keys that have the stabiliser bars in. So we'll start with the space bar, which has its own unique spring. So don't forget to put that in first. I know that sounds silly, but it's easy to do. Guess how I know? Space bar in. Again, the enter key, that's got its own unique spring. So we'll put that in. And then from this point onwards, all the springs are the same. But one thing I will say is just be careful when you put the springs in, because it's very easy for two of them to intertwine together and look like one spring, and then when you get to the end of the keyboard, you're one down. You end up crawling all over the floor trying to find the one that you dropped, only to realise that you've put two under one key, and you've got to rip the whole keyboard apart to find out where it was. And it's always under the last key you check as well. So just be careful that these springs haven't rolled together and you've not got more than one there at a time. It really is so easy to do. Anyway, let's get the cap shift in. A little bit, just a little bit of corrosion on a couple of these springs, and it's not something that I'm particularly worried about. But if it was any worse, what I could have done is I could have dropped the springs in a little tub of white vinegar and just left them sit overnight, and then the rust would have just picked off quite easily. Provided it hasn't eaten too far into the springs, that is. But I'm not worried. I think they're okay. So there we go. So that's all me keys that need the stabiliser bars, so we'll just fit those. In fact, let me just zoom in on this and I'll show you the way I do it. It's not necessarily the correct way, but it works for me. So I'll start the space bar, and what I tend to do is press the key in from the other side, and that way it's a lot easier to line the stabiliser bar up, and then with a screwdriver you can just click it into place. You should be able to just click it into place. Let me just get a screwdriver that isn't magnetic, hang on. Actually, I'll just use my fingers. Line it up, press it in, simple as that. I'll do the rest of the stabiliser bars. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, and then we'll finish reassembling the rest of the keyboard. Drive has been refitted to the case. Keyboard's now been put back together, so that can go back in, I suppose. that way, I think. Yep. Let's get that screwed in. Just loosely in each corner, just so it squares up nicely, and then I'll tighten them all down. Actually, that screw doesn't go there, thinking about it. I think that is a case screw that goes all the way through. I don't think that had a screw there originally. Or was this the case screw? Let me check. Nope. Yeah, case screw goes in there, so I don't want to put a screw in there. I think that's right. Well, we'll soon find out when it goes back together. The case screws don't go in. I've made a mistake. Let's line this board back up. Okay, I can put the two halves back together and then we can try it out. So first things first, let's get the ribbon cable in for the keyboard. If it'll go. Plug the cassette unit in. That should be it. If I can just get this case to line up properly. There we go. Okay, I'll put the screws in and then we'll give it a go. Yep, it's all powered up. And yeah, it seems to be working just fine. Keyboard's responding as it should. And most importantly, I don't have to play about with the connector at the back to get the power to stay on. That is a solid connection, not a problem at all. Excellent. Let's load some games and make sure the tape deck's working as it should. Well, there's always ZipZap. It's a classic. I know the tape's good. So whether or not it'll be working okay on this, we shall see. I mean, the spools are turning, so that's a good sign. Seems okay, it's not too wavy. Yeah, that seems to have worked. Yeah. It's a strange game this, but I do enjoy it. I haven't got a joystick plugged in, I just realised. But anyway, yeah, that seems to work okay. So yeah, there's that. I mean, in all honesty, it didn't exactly take a lot of work to bring it up to a usable condition. I mean, what have I done? I've changed the power socket, so that was a problem. The sound on RF I've not even bothered with, I'm really not interested. I've changed the belts in the drive, and I've recapped it, and I've given it a good clean, and that's all it needed really. It seems to be perfectly fine, perfectly usable machine, so it's going to stay on the desk for a while. I think it's going to be my daily driver for a while now. I might even do a few live streams with it. I've not decided yet. So I do have a Twitch channel, but I haven't used it since like October 2020. So I might resurrect that and do a few retro streams. I'll see how the mood takes me and see how time's going as well. But yeah, I hope that was entertaining. I hope it was useful to someone. As always, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.